Okay, looks like we're live. Hello, everybody. This is Bradley Better with Semantic Mastery, and I have Marco on with me today. Hey, Marco. Today is typically it's the Hump Day Hangout, which is just about a 30-minute Q&A session, but we actually have our members-only webinar, which is on Thursdays, every other week, so bi-weekly, and we just decided, obviously, since it's Thanksgiving, by the way, happy Thanksgiving, everybody, that we were going to combine them today and just make it public, just as kind of like a Thanksgiving treat. So we've got a lot to cover today. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in introductions. You guys know who we are, what we do, I believe, and if not, you can find out throughout this webinar what we're about. So with that said, guys, there is a Q&A button that is on the events page. It's a little blue button that says Q&A. Click on that to submit your questions throughout the webinar. And also, Marco, if you don't mind, for those people that might not be submitting questions through the Q&A app, if every so often you could check the events page and see if there's questions submitted directly on the page.
Yeah, I'm on the events page also.
Okay, cool. Very cool. So with that, I'm going to jump into the presentation. I've got some slides prepared. And please let me know if you're seeing my screen okay.
Yes, I can see it. I hope everybody else can also.
Okay. And we're not running through Webinar Jam, so I think we should be, I don't think there's going to be too much of a delay. Hopefully the questions can come through kind of real time as we go. So again, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. The Semantic Mastery webinar today. We've got a lot to cover. We've got about an hour and a half to do it. I also want to cover some Q&A stuff at the end. Also, guys, if there's any questions that you have during the presentation, please feel free to submit them. If they're something that I can answer pertaining to the topic that we're discussing at the moment, then Marco just will interrupt me and I'll answer your questions. If it's something that's not really related, we'll hold off until the end of the webinar and cover it during the Q&A session. So what we're going to cover today. New syndication properties. There's a handful of additional syndication properties that I've started testing just within the last maybe week and a half, 2 weeks maybe. I had my outsourcer, one of my VAs, actually set them up for me, and I played with them a little bit the last couple days myself, kind of fine-tuning them, and I want to show those to you guys because they're quite cool. Just any kind of properties that we can add to our syndication networks is we want to do that, and especially if it's automated, it's just a matter of setting it up. And so I'm going to go through those, show you guys those, and then for those of you who are members, I'm going to have the full training videos on those sites available within another week or so. It'll also be part of the IFTTT training course, so those will be available inside the training course. But for now, I'm just going to walk through them. On-page SEO, one of our guests, Brian, who's been recently following us, he agreed to allow me to do kind of an on-page SEO audit and cover some various on-page stuff because I've had a lot of questions recently about that. So we're going to cover some on-page SEO stuff today. We're going to talk about boosting domain authority and why that's important. So we're going to give out some hints and some tricks on that using 301s, which kind of it goes along with boosting DA, so I want to discuss some questions and answer, some Q&A about using 301s because we get a lot of questions about that. I think it confuses a lot of people, and I want to try to clear up some confusion on that. And then we're going to go into the Q&A session and cover any additional questions that you guys have, or it's basically going to be open floor. So again, jump in anytime. And we're going to start with the new syndication properties. There's a couple of these were actually listed in the original IFTTT training for those of you that have purchased it a long time ago, or a while back, or have been a member for a while. And the newer updated training videos that we just uploaded, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we did not have a few of them in here that were listed before, and that's because they weren't actually IFTTT properties. In other words, they weren't channels within IFTTT that had to be activated. They can complement or be in addition to the IFTTT networks, but they were separate sites altogether. So that's why I left them out of the updated training, because it really would be what I call additional or bonus training, or advanced training, something like that. It's not necessarily part of the core training series. So one of those is friend feed, and you'll see that what I have in parentheses by next to each one of these is the domain authority value, and then also if it's got an RSS feed itself, an output feed. And I'm not 100% sure on the other ones. I spent a little bit of time today trying to find if some of these other sites had an output RSS feed, but I wasn't able to get through all of them. So some of these other ones may also have RSS feed outputs, but I just was unable to find them. So,
and if not, we can see if we can create one. So
yeah, absolutely. Anytime we can create out of any property, period, that we can create one. Speaking of that, this is a little bit off topic, but there is a site called Page 2 RSS, and I played with this several years ago, and it didn't really do what I wanted it to do. But I just actually landed on this page yesterday or 2 days ago, and they have updated this a lot. I haven't played with it yet, so guys, I'm just giving this to you as a, if somebody else wants to play with it and report back before I get it done, please let me know or let us know. But this is a way that you supposedly can turn HTML pages or things that don't have an RSS feed into a feed. I just don't know really how it works. But they have a Google app now, and an actual browser extension, and also like a browser page button or whatever, to where you can turn pages into an RSS feed. So again, I haven't played with this yet, but I thought it was interesting and worth noting since you just mentioned that, Marco. So that's page2rss.com. Somebody wants to play with that before we get to it, let us know inside the members area or the community. I'd appreciate that. So anyways, today I want to show a couple of these, or go through these and show some examples. Again, I said I had a virtual assistant of mine create these properties for one of my projects, and I want to show you the results so that you can get a feel for it. FriendFeed is a great service. It's really easy to use. You can set it up very quickly and easily. It's free. All of these are free. The only thing that it's connected to in this case is the YouTube channel. However, I probably should have logged in. Well, this isn't going to be full training on these. These are just going to really be an overview. But you can add a number of different Web 2.0, and anything with an RSS feed you can also add to here. I've got this connected specifically to a YouTube channel only, but you can connect anything with an RSS feed, also Tumblr, Delicious, Digo, WordPress, Blogger, all of those. And so basically it'll just create these little bookmarks. There are no follow links. That's why you're seeing the strike through, guys. If I refresh it, since I removed that no follow highlighter, it looks normal, but it doesn't matter. They're domain authority, and domain authority transfers. If we turn on the Moz bar, you'll see this is a 92, and it's very cool because it's basically a one and done. You set it up, you add your feed sources, and that's it. You click save, and then it will automatically repost everything that you have. Now, you can see that it says there's only one subscription here, and there's also friends, and I have found on Fiverr before that you can order, let's see, one second. You can order friend feed friends and followers. I haven't really found a gig that's really that good. I've tried a few of them, but none of them have produced the results exactly like I wanted to. But there are some friend feed subscribers or followers or whatever gigs that you can find in here. You might have to do some digging and try some different terms. I've done them in the past, about 2 or 3 of them, and haven't really found anything that was that good. But it helps to get followers, just like Twitter and everything else. Okay. So friend feed's very cool, very simple to use. The next one is flavors.me. This is a really, really cool site. I like this one a lot, and it's got a domain authority of 89. Let me show you what this one looks like. This one has been set up with more channels, and this is just a persona. Again, I had to set up as a test to test these properties out. It takes a moment for everything to load, but you can have, with a free account, you can have up to 5 content sources. Okay, and what's cool is these are like little iframes almost with the videos in here, and you can see I've got YouTube as one of the content sources. I believe this is the feed from the money site. This is the Blogger feed and Tumblr feed, and then the WordPress.com feed. And you can see that these are all links that directly, and it's with a domain authority of 89, right here on the profile page. So this is another one of those sites that once you add your content sources to it, up, like I said, up to 5 for free, then you could run a ton of links to this, and you're basically buffering any links that you send through this flavors.me and then through the other Web2s, you know what I'm saying? So you can kind of layer your links or tier them. Very cool, because if you look, I mean, if we go through it, it's got all the content from all those feeds. So it's very, very cool. And it's got the full content of the post, including the links from within inside the post itself. So all of those are live. You see that? So that's what, anytime you can do something like that. So that's also, by the way, this is a good point for me to mention once again, that when you're syndicating content, you got to be very careful if you're setting up networks like this about how you structure your links, okay? Because if you're using anchor text links, you can imagine if they're getting syndicated out a bunch of properties and the links within the content are also live, it can cause problems for over optimization. You can trigger a penguin penalty if you've got too much, anchor text. So typically, if you'll notice that almost everything that I do, I just use the naked URLs, and I do that on purpose. Also, though, be careful, because if you're using an exact match domain, then now, it didn't used to, but now if you're using exact match domain URL anchors, right? So if you're just building URL anchors but you've got an EMD, then that could cause a penguin filter. You could trip that because you'd over optimization. They count that as keyword now. So that's why I don't suggest using EMDs anymore at all. You can use partial match or partial branded, but I don't recommend using EMDs at all anymore, because there's just too many ways that it could. It's too sensitive, in other words. So just keep that in mind. But this is a very, very cool site, very easy to set up, flavors.me. So I'll note the ones that are a little bit more difficult to set up, and there are a couple of them. Paper.ly, speaking of which. Paper.ly is a very cool site as well. It's a little bit weird setting it up. Like, it takes some getting used to, and to be honest with you, I'm not 100% used to setting it up yet. I played with it for a while yesterday, trying to figure out how it works and how to add content sources. And it's kind of weird when you add content sources, and you can see that nothing has been posted to the contents, the sources that this pulls the content from. So in other words, we add feeds to this, and whatever content sources we can add to this, we add. But it creates a new edition every day, just like a newspaper. So there was nothing posted on any of those channels today. So, but if we go to archives, the last time I think I actually posted to this network was November 13th. And if you see that, then now you can see all the content that was posted that day, which was basically 3 items. And you can see that here. Now, I had done, see, this is for one of my video syndication networks, this whole setup, right? This is just one of many networks for that particular video syndication network of mine. So it's, there's many different smaller networks which comprise a larger network, and this is just one of those smaller networks. And I submitted 3 videos to the YouTube channel that day, and it also, obviously syndicated out across a bunch of different Web2s, and some of those Web2s are also content sources from here, and that's why you'll see similar titles, but they're from different sources. So, for example, that goes directly to YouTube. That one looks like Blogger, and that one looks like Blogger as well, and that one's also Blogger. So it might just be those 2 content sources here. So anyways, again, this is it's kind of tricky setting this up. It's gonna, it's kind of hard navigating the dashboard and trying to figure out how to add content. It's weird. It really is. It took me a while to figure it out, and then once I did, I kept checking it, and it kept saying no content published today. So I kept thinking I did something wrong. And in looking at it, it's just that it only posts and publishes on the day that there's actually content. But it's got a domain authority of 85, so you absolutely want to use it. Something else that I didn't do, which I probably could have done, was right here in the description or the bio, I could have put a link back to whatever the main site would have been, and in this case probably the Blogger site, and that would also add a static link there that would always be live, right? So wanted to share that one. The next one is RebelMouse, rebelmouse.com, awesome site. It's just really, really cool, but it is also funny. It's kind of weird setting it up, and I had to spend some time today figuring out why it wasn't posting content. and I found out how to do it. There is a setting inside where the content sources are, and there's a button. It's like a column header that you click on, and you have to set a specific checkbox that to allow it to publish content even if there's no media link in it. And I had to look through help files to figure it out, but once I did, it started publishing just fine. And this is the result here. So this is very cool too. It's got a domain authority of 81. Like I was just talking about putting a hard-coded link in the description, I did that over here, and you can see that right here. But this, once again, this will all automatically update itself as new content goes out across any one of the content sources, which I have, Blogger, Tumblr, YouTube, WordPress. All of those are connected to this as Twitter. So anytime anything goes out across any one of those channels, it's going to come out and update this. Plus, I found out that this does have a feed. The feed is this URL right here. So it's rebelmouse.com/feeds/sitename.rss, and sitename is this right here, the username. Okay. So that I just found that out today while I was in the help files. I dug that up too. So this is also another really good source to use. And I've seen Rebel Mouse sites rank. I haven't actually tried to rank one like in particular, like set out to rank a Rebel Mouse site, but I've done, typically what I do is once we build the IFTTT networks and we start syndicating content, is I set up FCS networker and GSA campaigns to the networks themselves to boost the page authority. You can see this is a new site, so nothing's been done to this. That's why it's a page authority of 1. But when we start sending links to this page, the page authority will boost very, very quickly, which will help make all of these links right here much stronger. Okay, and I've actually seen that in some of my older, more established networks where these sites will actually end up ranking for the desired keyword phrases just because they're strong sites. So keep that in mind. All right. Okay, the next one, Dippity.com. Dippity sounds kind of funny, and we'll go take a look at it. This is a newer site that I had not used before, so let's take a look. Yeah, this is weird. It's like got these like timelines right here. You like that? Coolest guy in Culpeper, Virginia. That was a test I was doing. Those of you that have been members for a while, you'll remember that test. But you can see that these have got like timelines here, and these are all links over directly to the content. So if you click on it, for example, it brings it up in this little window, but then we've got the links that goes to the YouTube channel. There's the YouTube link again. So it's a really cool little site. I like how it works with the 76 domain authority. So it's not bad. You can see down here it says recent events. If you click on these, let's see what that does. Yeah, it just opens up that little light box window. But pretty cool. And I did not see, and I didn't spend a lot of time in the dashboard here, but I did not see where we could add like a hard-coded link. But again, I did not spend a lot of time in here. So let's see. I'm just trying to think of maybe in the training videos that I do for members, we're gonna, I'll have this fleshed out a whole lot more. I just thought these were cool and would share these with you guys today. The next one. Alternian. This is pretty cool too. It's got a lower domain authority. It's only a 37, but it's a newer site, and I really, really like this site a lot. And I'll show you why here. So I have a feeling if this sticks around, this will end up being a really good site. You can add a ton of content sources to this one. There's something like, if you read the about or whatever, if you go to sign up here, it connects with up to 220 social media in Web 2s. Up to 220. That's insane. I think this is the most I've ever seen. And you can see that like it's just a wall of all your curated content. Now, guys, you're seeing a lot of duplicates here because, again, I'm using one content source to feed all of these sites. So they just get reposted and republished on all these additional sites like Tumblr and Digo and Delicious and Twitter, Blogger. It just goes on. And WordPress is here. So you'll see that a lot of these are duplicates here, but you could have unique content sources. But honestly, I could care less. These are for YouTube videos mainly, so and it helps them to rank. But what's cool is here are the links to all of the profiles. Those are, you could add all the other profiles in there. You can add them up here as well, and you'll see that these links flow right through. If we hit the little drop down, you'll see you got a couple more. So like if I clicked on the WordPress, it's going to take me over there. So these are all, once again, we're going to talk about boosting domain authority today, and we'll talk a little bit more about why it's so important to interlink all of your properties this way, and how it boosts domain authority. It really builds massive authority, and so that's why we do that. Every opportunity we get to put all of our links, profile links together to where we interlink everything together is very important. Now, keep in mind, this is a personas network, right? So this is not a branded network. It's a secondary network to one of my branded networks. All right, so I'm using this as like basically tier 2. So I'm not tying everything back to my my money site or my money network. Like these are all Dana T. Ayers accounts here, right? The content is being syndicated from somewhere else, right? But these are all her accounts that we're tying in. So we're trying to build authority for Dana T. Ayers and then pass that authority through to the content, which eventually filters its way back to the source, right? So, but this is a very, very cool site, and this was a little funny in the dashboard, but it wasn't difficult to set up. Okay. The next one is Curator. Curator is weird. It's only a 33 domain authority, but it's another one of those that you can add content sources to, and it's going to publish it out on its own. And you can set up different styles here, like different layout options. I had, the wide middle column and then the narrow sidebars, left and right sidebars, but you can set up like different content layouts and things like that. And you can see that the same thing. It's the same as all the other ones, guys. You can add a few different content sources. I tried to add many more than what you see here, and it kept giving me an error on some of them. So I don't know if there's a limit and it just wasn't giving me the limit or what. But you can see, look, I mean, that's a lot of content. So once again, this is just another thing you can add into the mix. Okay. So that was it for the additional syndication properties. Is there any questions that have come through for that?
No, none yet.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'm just going to keep on moving. Is Brian here? Can you see the attendees? Let's see, I think if let me stop for a minute and take a look at the YouTube channel. I'm just curious if Brian is here, because I don't want to analyze his site unless he's available. So he said that it was all right. Give me 1 minute, guys, while I figure out where the YouTube link is. There it is. Well, then I'm just going to keep on moving. Is Brian here? There's the delay. Yeah, well, Brian, if you're here, let us know, please. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it. If we don't see Brian chiming in for a minute, then we can probably move on and use like another site as an example. I don't want to. He can get the recording though.
Oh, he's here.
Okay, good. Good. Well, Brian, keep in mind, just jump in at any time, man. If you got questions, this is your site in specific. Okay. Like I said, man, I didn't want to jump on your stuff without. Let's see, currently answering Brian. Okay, that's cool. I'm testing out this Q&A app too, guys, so just bear with me while I do that. We just started doing, instead of Webinar Jam, using the Hangout app instead. So, all right, so I'm going to go back to full screen and jump over there. So, Brian, by the way, I got to tell you, you've done a really good job at redesigning your site, because I remember what it looked like when you were first introduced to me, and you've come a long way with how it looks. So, first, I want to commend you on that. The next thing is, let me pull up the slide, on-page SEO. So we're going to do this audit, and again, thanks, Brian, for offering to do this. I think there's some things that can help you out today, and we're going to talk about, first and foremost, what I found in looking at the site is that there is still a lot of over-optimization with keywords that is, especially now in Panda 4.1, well, really since Panda 4.0, things have gotten a lot stricter and tighter with on-page optimization, like things that can trigger the over-optimization. One of them being the fact that you've got an EMD, right? So you're already put at a much more sensitive position, much more vulnerable. In other words, you've got to, it's a very, it's a hair trigger, in other words, so you've got to be very careful. And I've noticed that some of that you've got a lot of repetition in places that can get you into a lot of trouble. So I'm going to cover some of that with you. We're not going to go too deep into it, but I do want to cover the basics, and in some tools and things that you can use to also help, and for the audience that they can use to analyze their own site. So, but again, the design aspect of the site is way better than it's like night and day. But if we take a look right here, this one paragraph right here is enough to get you in trouble. If we were to just count how many times it says Baltimore in this, it's way over optimized. I mean, it's like you're hammering Google over the head with the fact that it's Baltimore, and it's not necessary. And really, to be honest with you, keyword density values have come way down because the algorithm is so much more advanced now that it doesn't need it. In fact, it will trip the Panda penalty if you have your keyword density too high, and it's especially on an EMD, right? Plus, now Panda and Penguin have a bit of an overlap. So your inbound link profile, your anchor text profile is also taken into account. And if you have exact match anchors coming in, it can also trigger a Panda. That's right, I said Panda, not Penguin, which is weird because a while back it wasn't that way. It was either Penguin was off page and Panda was on page, but now there's an overlap there. So you got to be very careful. But the way to analyze this, and to put it in a way that's very simple to understand, is that you can rank a page for a keyword now with just the mention of the keyword one time on the page. There's no doubt, okay? Especially if you've got your theme, if everything is themed very tightly, you can do it with just the mention of the keyword once, like in the title tag, and then once in the content is all it's needed. And then use a bunch of LSI keywords. So in other words, semantically related keywords, co-occurring keywords, synonyms, that sort of thing, right? So this is way over optimized and just right here. But the other thing you got to consider is that when Google's looking at this page, it's looking at the entire page, right? So it's not just looking at the content here. It's looking in the fact that over here in the testimonials, it's got Baltimore Computer Solutions. It's looking down here and it's seeing Baltimore mentioned in here. It's looking down here, and I noticed that since I had asked you originally a couple weeks ago if you wanted me to analyze your site, you have changed your main services menu down here, because I know before every one of them had Baltimore in that title. So I see that you removed that, and that's good, because that was, again, way too much. But again, consider this. You've also got Baltimore listed here. You've also got it in your email address. You've also got it down here in the footer of the site. So you're hammering, hitting Google over the head with it. And 2 years ago, yeah, we did that. Now we don't. And I think your site was suffering from it if you, and so I want to show you how we can get around that. One of the ways that you can analyze a site is going to SEOcentro.com. I'm going to pull the link up, guys, but let me show the slides. SEOcentro.com. Okay, so we're going to jump over here, take a look at this site. It's free. It's just a cool little tool with that you can use to do certain things. Like I use it for the keyword density checker. So over here in SEO tools, you click on keyword density, and we're going to grab the home page of this. Now, you have to do this on a page-by-page basis. Okay, it's not a site-wide tool. Like, it doesn't analyze your entire site, but it does do it page by page, and it's free. Okay, so if we type in the captcha here and click submit, it's going to take a second to analyze the page, and it's going to come back, and it's going to give us singular term keyword density. And if we scroll down, it's going to give us two-term keyword density. Okay, and then if you scroll down beyond that, it's going to go to three-term keyword density. And I always found this funny, but they misspelled three right there. It's tree. I always thought that was kind of funny. But if you take a look at this, this thresholds that you want to stay within is 2% for singular terms. You do not want any singular term above 2% keyword density. For dual or two-word terms, you don't want any two terms, two-word keyword phrases to be more than 1%. And for any three-word keyword phrase, you don't want to be above 0.2%. Now, the fact that your business name is Baltimore Computer Solutions, you're probably going to have a hard time keeping it to only 0.2%. So in that case, you may end up being a little bit higher on this level, which is okay. This is kind of a rule of thumb. Obviously, there's going to be exceptions but because your business name is actually the 3-word term, and it's going to be difficult to keep that completely out because it's also a service, right? But if we take a look at this, Baltimore is mentioned 23 times, which is 2.71%. So it's a bit high. So is computer. So is support. If you can get Baltimore out off that home page a few times, probably take 5 or 6 times out of there, and you get it down to under 2%, you'll be good to it will help. Get computer down below 2 as well, and then support. And what's interesting is this is exactly how. And let's actually do this. We're going to get into Webmaster Tools a little bit later anyways, but let me show you something here. I want to look at content keywords. If you're in Webmaster Tools, this is a Webmaster Tools for one of my sites, a lead gen site that I'd set up over a year ago and actually never rented it. I never ranked it because I don't know, I set it all up and I just never did it. So this has just been kind of sitting out there dormant forever. So I figured this would be a good site to use as an example on this webinar today. But I want to show you how Google determines which keywords now are important on your site. And this SEO Central can show you what is considered basically keyword weight, okay? Because Google doesn't care anymore about having your keyword phrases together. So let me just give you an example, okay? Like one of the major industries that I do a lot of SEO work in is tree services, right? And one of the cities that I live near is Fairfax, and Brian, you'll know, you're in the area too, but so Fairfax, Virginia. So tree service Fairfax, right? That would be a keyword phrase that 2 years ago we would have hammered over the head, Google's head. Said tree service Fairfax, even though it's not a natural speech pattern, we still would have hammered Google over the head with that keyword phrase because that's how people search, right? So we would have tree service Fairfax in the content several times, and again, that's not a natural, it's not a natural phrase. People don't talk that way, but we still would have used it a bunch. But now the algorithm is such that it doesn't need tree service Fairfax to be together, adjacent to each other. It doesn't need that anymore. As long as the words are on the page, they don't even have to be next to each other. They could just, now there is a weight considered by proximity, but having stop words in there won't hurt, such as tree services in Fairfax and related type terms, tree removal services, or arborists. Arborist would be a synonym or a co-occurring keyword for tree services, right? Tree specialists, tree experts, those kind of things all are considered part of that keyword set. And Google gives the keywords weight based on how many times they appear on the page, and it doesn't even care anymore if they're in order or not, okay? Like again, if they're adjacent to each other or not. So to prove this, let me just show you in Google Webmaster Tools. You can find this out if you have your site connected to Webmaster Tools, which I hope that everybody here does. And then you go over to Google Index and go down to content keywords, and you're going to see how Google determines the keywords on your site. There's not one occurrence of 2 words or more combination. There are no phrases here at all. They're singular words, okay? So Google gives your site and your pages. What's interesting is Google does not give you the information here to show you each page individually. This is looking at your site as a whole, okay? And that's what I don't like about, obviously Google wants to try to keep some of their secrets and how they weight things to themselves, so that's why they don't give us all that data. But there's not a single 2-word or more, 2+ word phrase here listed. It's all singular words, and they're weighted by significance. You see that? So no longer do you need to worry about having your keywords butted up next to each other, when you got a multiple word phrase, because it doesn't matter. What matters is the occurrence, the frequency as to how many times they appear on the page. Now, and there is a bit more weight placed to them if they're in the same sentence. For example, with the tree service Fairfax example that I was talking about, you could say, if you're looking for tree services in Fairfax County, something like that, or professional tree services performed by a Fairfax contractor, right? Those weren't even really all that close together, except that they were in the same sentence, and that does give it a little bit more weight than if they were like, Fairfax was at the top of the page and tree services was at the bottom of the page. And I know that's kind of a exaggerated example, but that's my point, is that there is a bit of additional weight put by how close the words are in proximity, but they no longer have to be together. And if they don't speak naturally, then don't do it. Okay. And also just keep in mind that when using SEO Central, you can see on a page-by-page basis the weight of the keywords, so the occurrence, the frequency. So by looking at this, you can see the Baltimore, computer, and support, 3 separate terms. You can see that all 3 of those are a little bit too high. So I would go back in and try to de-optimize your content a little bit. Shouldn't be hard to do. Okay. Everything else there looks pretty good. Then we go scroll down and look at the 2-word terms. We'll see the Baltimore computer is a bit high at 1.3%, and so is computer solutions. So I would try to work getting those down a little bit. And in fact, obviously, if you remove, if you work on the singular terms a bit, those are going to naturally come down anyways. So you might be able to get these with under the threshold just by working on the singular terms anyways. And then lastly, we'll go down, and this is the one that was a little bit, quite high. It's Baltimore Computer Solutions, and I know that's your business name, so that's going to be a little bit more difficult. Possibly it could be more difficult to get it down below the 0.2%. You can see that there's still quite a bit here you got to consider when you've got a small amount of content on the page, and in this case there's not really a whole lot of content, then it's difficult to get under 0.2%. If it, anything, look at this, if it occurs more than one time, a 3-word phrase, then it's over the 0.2% threshold. So that's why that's also kind of more proof that having longer copy on the pages is more valuable, because it reduces your likelihood of over-optimizing, right? Because you've got more words to dilute any phrases that are combined. So, like I said, the fact that you have Baltimore Computer Solutions is your name of your business, it's probably going to be very difficult to get that down to just one time. You won't be able to do that. So I'm assuming you're going to be above the 0.2% for sure, but try to get that down. You can see that on this page with only this much content, it's mentioned 11 times, right? So that's a bit too much. Just work on trying to get that out of there. All right. So for example, and just to give you kind of some examples, like you've got it down here. So you don't really, in fact, you could even probably get rid of that right here, because the company information, it's already in the URL, and it's also up here at the top. So you could probably just make this contact information and put contact information here. That's just one way you could get rid of it. Down here, Baltimore Computer Solutions, that's part of your footer. That's fine, because you want to have that there anyways. So there's a couple places that it's going to make sense for it to be there, but in some of the other ones, like I said, you just want to try to remove it out. So like right here, you could say, your reliable Baltimore IT support, or and in fact, Baltimore IT support right there, that doesn't really read naturally, right? And so, like I said, with the singular terms, Baltimore was repeated way too many times, so I would remove that there, remove this entirely. So it would be your reliable IT support provider and managed IT service provider, right? So you're de-optimizing that, and you're getting rid of Baltimore and Baltimore Computer Solutions. All right, and the same thing. I'm not going to analyze all your content for you, but I just want to give you an idea of how to do it. Like, especially when you are a bit over-optimized, you want to especially get rid of the keyword phrases in the H tags, because I know traditional old-school SEO tells you that you want to get the keywords in the H tags, but it's not that way anymore, especially if it's in the URL, right? And if it's in the SEO title, which it is, Baltimore IT support, right? You don't want them in the H tags anymore. Depends on where it is. And as a matter of fact, that brings me up to this. Let's go to, there's 4 things you want to keep in mind when you're crafting pages on a site or posts. You have your SEO title, okay? Then you have your URL. And you have your H1, which is your page title, right? So I'm going to say page title. If you're using an SEO plugin, you can set the SEO title, which is what shows up in the search engines, and it's also what shows in the header up here, right? That's called your title tag. You set that with the SEO plugin. Your page title would be that, so let's go click on one of your pages, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute as well. So I want to talk about menus and things. Okay, so this would be your page title here, which is going to be your H1. If we go and view the page source, all and we'll scroll down. I'm just going to do a Control F, do an H1. And right here, why should you hire Baltimore Computer Solutions and Computer Repair Baltimore, right? You can see right there, you've got Baltimore Computer Solutions in your root domain. Then you've got why hire us Computer Repair Baltimore, so there's a second occurrence. Then in your H1, you've got Baltimore Computer Solutions and Computer Repair Baltimore. So you've got Baltimore 4 times in the first 2 lines of code of the page. So my point is you don't need that when looking at the priority of where your keywords should be. This is what Google's going to look at the most. And in meta description, I know people say that Google does not look at that, but they do, and they do for over optimization now. Okay, so these are the 4 things that you really need to be careful of, and then I would say beyond that would be other H tags. Okay, so what I would do is consider your SEO title. That, in my opinion, is the most important place to have your keyword. All right. Next, your URL. That I always de-optimize. So I always try to make the URL as short and as generic as possible, especially with an exact match domain. So in this particular case, BaltimoreComputerSolutions.net, I would have it stop at why hire us. Okay. And that would be it. I'd get rid of Computer Repair Baltimore altogether. I would just have it be why hire us, because again, you've already got the occurrence right here. All right, so you always want to try to keep that down. That's why, like I said, URLs is I always put the SEO title is where the keyword goes, and the URL I de-optimize as much as possible. In fact, I had a number of my own lead gen sites that took a bit of a beating in the most 2 recent Panda updates, which was 4.0 and 4.1. And a lot of them was because I was doing exactly what you're doing here, Brian, and it's because that's what we were taught in the past, right? That's it's what worked in the past, but it stopped working. And just by going through and de-optimizing the URLs in some of the pages, I was able to bring my sites back. And I think you'll see a significant improvement when you start implementing some of these that you're learning today, Brian. And by the way, this replay will be available, so you'll be able to come back to this. Okay, so next, besides the URL, which again I suggest you de-optimize that down to as short and succinct, as general as a slug as possible, right? So for those of you that aren't aware, this is called the slug right here. Make that as general as possible. All right. Then the next part is the H1, which is the page title. Page titles, I generally make those conversational. Like you're telling the people what the page is going to be about in a conversational tone or manner. Right? So use a very natural speech phrase, not keyword stuffing at all, especially because you've already got it right here and you've got it in the SEO title. Right? So I would just say, why should you hire us, or why you should hire a professional computer repair solution or something like that, right? So, something like that. I just would get Baltimore out of there for sure, because that's where it looks like it's real heavy on that. And in fact, let's just go take a look at this in SEO Central. Now, I know that's probably not a page that you're really trying to rank, although right here, what do you see? See more keyword. That would be considered stuffing. So, and it looks like this might have just been the description from the video that you uploaded into YouTube, and that's okay. I would just remove this part, okay, and then also make sure that this isn't, Baltimore Computer Solutions, computers. Look at that. Just be very, very careful. Also, by the way, just so you know, we're not doing YouTube stuff today, but you don't need to stuff YouTube descriptions anymore either. In fact, that will hurt your YouTube ranking, because Panda applies to even YouTube now. We never thought that day would come, did we? But it does, and so does Penguin. If you over-optimize the description of the video, the on page, okay, that would be considered on page. It will hurt your rankings, and also if you over-optimized anchor text links inbound to your video, that can hurt your rankings. So I suggest you de-optimize this as well. If you're going to be de-optimizing your site, you might as well de-optimize that property as well. So let's just go take a look at that and see what the numbers are for that page. And again, like I said, you made a valiant effort on cleaning the site up. It looks great. So now the next step is to get the results you want by just cleaning up some of the over-optimization. And that's all. That's a good thing. What I like about Panda penalty is that it's something that you can fix, whereas Penguin is so much more difficult, because any on-page stuff you can fix, right? You can test stuff. Now, it might take a while for your fix to appear, okay? So like if you make changes today, it doesn't mean tomorrow it's going to rank. you've got to wait until the next Panda refresh, which is about every 20 days, roughly, give or take a few days. Okay, so if you're right after the most recent refresh and you update your site, you might have to wait 3 weeks before you see any results. So that's why I say make some changes and then give it a few weeks, monitor it, make sure you're using a rank tracking software so that you can see where you are when you started making changes. Make a note of yourself, use a spreadsheet or use a Google Doc and make a note. I made these changes on this date, and then go back and check it in 7 days, 10 days, 14 days, and see if you see a significant jump or a significant drop. Then you can go back to your notes and say, well, what did I do? Don't keep going in and making changes every day for the next 3 weeks, because then you won't know which changes had which effect. You want to make a handful of changes, document those, and then give it time to settle in, and then go back and check it and see what those changes, like what kind of an effect those changes had. Right? That's what you want to do, because otherwise, and trust me, I know I've been guilty of this, where rankings have dropped for some reason, and I've gone in and I've changed a few things today, and then 2 or 3 days go by and I didn't jump back up in the ranking, so I changed some more things, and then 2 or 3 days go by and I changed some more things, and by the time the Panda refresh comes through, you've done so many damn things on so many different days, you don't know which one it was that had the effect, and then you end up working 5 times as hard as you need to. Okay, so just keep that in mind from experience, that you want to clean that up. Okay. So with that, look at this. Computer was 7.61%. That's high. Baltimore 6%. So you get the point. I'm not going to beat that dead horse anymore. But right here, same thing. Baltimore Computer 3.8. This should be at 1% and below. You're going to see a significant difference if you start falling within those thresholds. Baltimore Computer Solutions, again, 12 times, 3.5%. 3.05%, I'm sorry. Okay, so very cool tool. It's free to use. You can go through your site and just start looking at all of your pages one by one, and just do them one at a time. I know that can be a lot of work, so don't try to do it all in one day. Just say, I'm going to do 3 pages every day for the next 2 weeks and clean it up. And I'm telling you, and you'll see that within the next few weeks, just from doing that alone, if you're tracking your ranking where you are today, and you start making these changes, you do that site-wide, you're going to see a difference. You will see an improvement in where you are. I guarantee you that, because it's over-optimized right now. There's just no question about it. Okay. So, and then lastly, meta descriptions. Now, meta descriptions, we all know as SEOs, if you've been doing this at all, that we put content keywords in the meta description. Why? Because it bolds in the SERPs, right? So when you're looking at the search engine results page, you see the meta description. If you have the keyword there, it bolds. So it must be good, right? Well, that's true, except that now that is one of the first things that Google looks at to see if you've got a keyword in your SEO title, your URL, your H1, and your meta description. You clearly are trying to gain Google, right? So that's why I said the only place that I have an exact match keyword is the SEO title. Then the URL as a short slug, very generalized term if possible. The H1 is conversational in manner, where you're just introducing the content on the page. It's okay to have a partial match keyword here, just don't use exact match. And then meta description, always LSIs, co-occurring keywords. Don't use the exact match keyword at all. Use a closely related keyword phrase, but not the same phrase. And then for the rest of your H tags, the same thing applies. In fact, I would suggest not even using partial match keywords in the H tags, unless it makes absolute conversational sense. If it's completely logical to use a partial match keyword in an H tag, that's fine. But as an SEO, you want to try. It's so weird. As SEOs now, we try not to SEO, and that's the truth. You gotta work hard to not SEO your sites, and that's it's interesting how it's changed, but that's how it works. So I hope that was helpful, Brian. Was there any questions that came in for that? Doesn't look like it. Okay. All right. Well, if you have any questions, man, please feel free to jump in. And I hope you don't think I was beating you up, man, because I'm not. I think you're doing what a lot of people do. Even a lot of it's amazing how much the algorithm has come along in the last several months, the last year, really. So just gotta if you de-optimize your site, you're going to see a big difference. But again, like I said, if you don't have an SEO rank tracker, then get one and get it set up where you currently are before doing anything else, okay? Because I want you to be able to see the changes that it's going to make. All right. No, if there's no questions, I'm going to keep moving. There's a tool that you guys can use called Screaming Frog. I'm going to open that tool up, and we're going to run Brian's site through there real quick. This is a crawler tool, and I'm going to put the link in chat so that you guys can actually go check it out if you want. It's going to cost like about, let's see, do I have a chat here? Here, I'll put it on the events page right here. All right, that'll appear on the page in a moment. The Screaming Frog's crawler will cost, it costs like, I don't know, like $160 or something. It's 200 pounds or something, or it's 100 pounds. So it comes out to be like 160 or 180 bucks, something like that. Very cool tool. If it's only for, if you're only doing this for your own site, you probably don't need it. If you're doing this for multiple sites, or you have your own, you have your own lead gen sites or your own SEO sites that you're using for niche marketing or whatever, or if you're doing this for clients, then this is a very valuable tool to have. And I'm going to show you how to use it very quickly, just a very brief tutorial on this, just so we can see how it works for Brian's site. But the first thing that I like to do is go up to configuration and go to Spider, and I'm going to uncheck a few things that I don't want to check, like links outside folder. External links, that's if we're looking at on-page stuff right now, so I'm not really going to worry about that. I don't want to look at SWF files, JavaScript, or CSS. Don't care about that. I'm really just trying to crawl the links on the page. I want to see what comes up, the meta descriptions, all that. And this gives us kind of like a snapshot or a bird's eye view of the entire site very quickly. Okay, so I'm going to click OK there. The next thing I do is under configuration, I like to go to user agent and change that to Google, so that I'm looking at it as Googlebot regular. Click OK. So now that I can look at the site as Google is seeing it, right? Now I'm going to grab the homepage URL here, and you guys are seeing this Screaming Frog, right?
Yes, we see your screen.
Okay. I'm going to click Start, and it's going to go out and it's going to read all of the links on the site very quickly. You can see over here what it's doing, and it's only going to take a few minutes, depending on the size of the site. If you have, like I said, there's different configuration settings in here. You need to play with them to figure out. Sometimes, like, you'll go to crawl a site and it will, is it completed already? Yeah, it is. If it's got like social media links and stuff on the page, it'll crawl outside onto the social media links and then start spidering those sites. and I mean, it'll just go nuts, and like, it's crazy. So you've got to learn how to restrict it to only crawl what you want it to crawl, and it takes some playing with. I am not an expert in this tool. I just use it to get a very quick bird's eye view of the site and to try to spot some very obvious problems. So I'm going to open this up a little bit so we can see more of the data. And we can see here that one of the first things I like to check is the status code of pages. So if I sort by here, we can check to see if there's any broken links. There's a couple, 404 errors here, not bad at all. There's only 2 on the site, so that could be fixed very easily by, for example, let's see, if we click on URL info, let's see if we open that up. There's a way to, and again, it's been a while since I've even played with this software, but there's a way to actually bring that and show where it's coming. Let's see, end links, that must be it. Let's do that. Open 2 in browser. All right, one more time. Let me try open from in browser. There it is. Okay, so in here is probably where the broken link is. Somewhere in here. Oh, and that's a no-no. You need to get rid of that too, Brian. That's no good. So anyways, generally where there's a way to find where the link is on the site when you find broken links, and you just want to go locate those links and then clean them up. Just either delete the URL to where it's just text on the site, or find out where the broken link goes to and clean that up as well. So anyways, you can clean that up, and you want to make sure that you do that. It's only 2 though, so that's not bad. But when you start stacking 404 errors on a site, that lowers the overall site quality. So it gives you a lower scoring, and that can trigger a Panda penalty. Okay, so keep that in mind. But you've done good here. There's only 2. You see a couple 301s or 3 301s, and that's fine. 301s are more than okay. But if we also go take a look at a few of these other things, like we can look at page titles. And this is where when I had crawled this before the webinar just to kind of get an overview in my head of what we're going to be looking at today. And this is where I noticed that I see, I've seen Baltimore a lot in the slug when it's already in the URL, the root URL. So that's why I knew to look at that. So just keep in mind that you want to go through. Brian, one of the things that you're definitely going to want to do is, like I said, go through and de-optimize all your slugs. That would be one of the very first things that I did, would be de-optimize the slugs, because your root URL has already got the EMD there. Okay. But if we take a look at the title here, we'll see one thing I like about it over here, this little quick view for page titles. It'll show if there's duplicates. It says there's a few, not too many. So you don't want duplicate page titles. And so the way that you would find out where those duplicates are is just sort by title. And now you can see, like, for example, you've got the same page title for these two pages, web design, and then services web design, right? Which is interesting. I wonder why there's actually two pages. Let's see if we open in browser. This is the web design without the services slug. So like this page right here, let's go look at the other one side by side. Okay, so what I would do, Brian, is, because it looks like you have set this up in kind of a quasi-silo fashion, with this nested under services, and I like this format and layout better anyways, what I would do is just delete this page on your site, or 301 it over to this one. Okay? So, and if there's no backlinks built to this page, then you really could just delete it, because it's really serving absolutely no purpose. If there's backlinks built to it, which we can check very quickly, then you could obviously, you'd want to 301 it so that you retain the link juice. All right, does that make sense? And I don't know if we're going to talk about 301s if we have time, and we could, talk a little bit about that too. It looks like there are no backlinks to that page, according to Majestic. If you used 4 different backlink analysis tools, you're going to get 4 different results. So, but according to Majestic, there's no links built to that page. So if you use that, or if you use Ahrefs or something, check it. And if you can't find any links coming in, then it's probably because they're not indexed links, or they're either low value links. So it would be okay to just go ahead and delete that page. All right. So that would be my suggestion. But this is why I like this tool, because very quickly we can get an idea of, okay, why do we have repeating titles or duplicate titles? And then we just now found you've got basically duplicate pages on here, one being a lot better, right, more user friendly than the other one. And this is really a low value page. It looks like there's, I mean, other than the portfolio links here, but that's what you got here. So I would, again, just go ahead and get rid of that page altogether, because that would be my suggestion. Going through the rest of these page titles here, anywhere that you see that you can find some that are very, very closely related with their keyword titles or their titles, I would get rid of them, or rename them, retitle them. Is my point. And you can see once again the URLs here are very, the repetition of Baltimore and everything. So that's just looking at page titles. Now, if we looked at meta descriptions, we can do the same thing here, and we can see that we got duplicates. Looks like there's just a few. It's saying there's only a few. Oh, and this is missing. Okay, so you're using a plugin. Let's see, we have page source still open. My guess is that you're using the Yoast plugin possibly. Let's see. Tell us if we look at the code. Yes, right here, the Yoast WordPress SEO plugin. And so by not having a meta description, this is it's pulling content from the body to use as the meta description, and that's what's showing here. But that's actually not that big a deal. I wouldn't worry about that too much. I just want to show you that you want to look for stuff that you can repair very easily that could be causing you problems. Next thing, meta keywords. You asked about this. I know you did, about using meta keywords, and I said we don't use them anymore. It looks like you're not, so that's a good thing. H1s and H2s, that's the next two things that I look at, and the same thing, I just sort by H1, and I try to see if I can find duplicates, and if so, why. And you can see that there's some duplicates showing over here. And then I go in and I reword those to make sure that I'm not using the same title on more than one page. Okay? And then by the way, if you're seeing multiple H1s, you need to look at why and see why. You should never have more than one H1 on a page. H2s, you can have more than one H2 if you're talking about on the same page fairly different topics. Well, they could be in the same general theme, but if they're significantly different in some aspect, then you could have two H2s, but typically I would only use one H2. H3s and H4s, you can use as many as you want. You know, I mean, don't over-optimize, but just keep that in mind. If you're seeing two H1s, try to look at the page itself and figure out why. And in some cases, you're going to have, like, for example, if we go look at the blog page right here, all of the titles on this page are going to be H1s, so you're going to have multiple H1s on that. That's okay, but I would set this page to no index, okay, because this is just an index page, like a blog index page is what it's called, so I would just set this page to no index. Do follow no index, and you're using Yoast, so in the Yoast advanced settings, matter of fact, let's see if I had that site still open. Yeah, I do. This is the example site I was going to use. Let me jump into Yoast on one of these pages, and I'll show you so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, we got the blog page here, which is the exact same thing you got, and I could be showing you this again. I might have to set this up properly on this site anyway, so this could be a good example. Right here in the Yoast settings where it says advanced, you want to click on that, and you want to have, see, this is saying currently indexed, set that to no index, but you want it to follow, because what you're telling Google is that this is a blog index page. It's not worth indexing. It's basically just a page where we list the posts. But we do want the Google bots to crawl so that they, when you say no index but follow, you're saying don't index the page, but we want your spiders to follow all the links on this page. Okay? So that's why you want to set it to no index but follow. All right, let me jump back in here, and I'll go ahead and update this one. Okay, and then same thing with H2s. Just take a look at that and sort by H2, and then you can get an idea as if you have any that are repeated. And right here I can tell you another thing, and we're going to talk about that too. I saw this earlier. Is it looks like you've got your archive pages, which is another setting in Yoast that you have. Looks like they're being indexed right now. You want to set those to no index, as well as tags, tag pages, and I'm going to show you that too. So that brings us to the next point. From Screaming Frog, that's all I wanted to show you guys in Screaming Frog. It's just very cool because, like I said, very quickly you can get a bird's eye view of the entire site, and you can find these kind of problems. Like, for example, this. Okay, so these are category pages, author pages, a blog page. So there's a lot of these things that can get you into trouble for duplicate content. And Panda, again, it's Panda. We're talking on-page, guys. So the majority of the things we're talking about are about Panda. And this, you know, you might not ever even recognize or realize that you've got duplicate content issues without looking at everything side by side like this. So that's why this tool is very valuable. But that's really all I do with the tool. You know, I mean, I use it for other things too, but some more advanced stuff. But for on-page stuff, this is pretty much all I do. Just take a look very quickly at the site, find my problems, and then fix them, and then recrawl it again and see what kind of changes I've made. All right. So I hope that was useful. The next thing is using the site operator, or what's called a search operator, and using site colon. So if we go over here, this is Firefox. It's a clean browser right now. Let me open this up a little bit more for you guys. And we're just going to go to google.com. Okay, and then we're going to use the site colon operator, and then we're going to use the root domain. Let me just copy that. And we're going to go take a look at and see what Google's got indexed, right? Without me having access to Google Webmaster Tools for this site, I can still see what's indexed by doing this. And you can see there's 106 results that are indexed for this domain. And when I started looking at this, I saw that, again, this gave me plenty to look at when I was looking at the URL and the slugs, that I was seeing Baltimore a lot. So that's over-optimized, like I mentioned. Here's the blog page indexed, which I just said would be a good idea to no-index that page. Services, we're going to talk about that in a minute when we get to menus. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So contact us, that's up to you. I typically no-index that because it's basically a useless page for indexing purposes. Although that can be debatable, because some people actually do search for contact pages, like they'll put company name contact in, and the contact page could come up first. So that's debatable. But in looking through this, I started scanning through a few pages of results, and I saw that the tags were coming up. And so let me show you that. If I add /tag to this, click search, I'm going to see right here that tag pages are being indexed. There's 9 of them. Now, I know we talked about this kind of briefly a couple weeks ago, Brian, so if you've already fixed this inside or you've set it to no index, these could just be residual tag pages that have not fallen out of the index yet. But just for everybody else that may not have been there on that, or if you did not, if you missed that part that we talked about a couple weeks ago, tag pages should be no indexed. You can use tags if you know what you're doing. You can leave them set to index if you know what you're doing. And actually can do some pretty ninja SEO stuff with it, but more often than not, it can get you into trouble for duplicate content. And I explained that a couple weeks ago, but let's see if I can find an example right here. It would be nice to be able to find an example of that right here. See, this isn't so bad here because you've got multiple posts using that same tag, and your theme is only displaying a snippet of the post instead of the full text post on the tag page. So that's not so bad. Where you get in trouble with tags is if you have a post on your site that has a unique tag that is not used on any other post, because then that creates 2 pages on your site with the same content. Okay? Because the original post itself, then you get a tag page where the post will be, even if it's just a snippet instead of the full article or the full post. If that's the only thing on the page, then it would be duplicate content. And so you got to be very careful if you're using tags. So if you're going to use tags and you're going to set, and not, you don't got to be careful if you're using tags. You only got to be careful if you're setting the tag pages to index, if you're leaving them to index. Okay, because you can use tags, you should be using tags. Google does definitely look at that. You can see that in the source code on posts, okay? But you want to set the tag pages to no index unless you're using broad enough tags that they're used across multiple posts, and preferably that your theme shows them with just snippets of the posts instead of full posts on the index page, because this would be considered a tag index page. This is the index page for the tag Baltimore computer server repair, or whatever that, yeah, that would be the tag itself, Baltimore computer server repair. However, that tag in itself is over optimized. Okay, because a tag should be more general. Like, let's put it this way, that's very specific. That's a keyword, right? A tag should be a step above that, just one step more broad than that. So what I would have done, put, you know, Baltimore would have been a tag, and then server repair would have been a tag. Okay, and then maybe possibly even computer would be a separate tag. So I would have broke that up into 2 or maybe 3 tags instead of using that, because that's very specific and that's like a keyword, right? So the hierarchy of how that should go is you should be targeting each page or post after one specific keyword, and then tags would be one level above that, so more broad, and then above that would be categories. Categories would be one step above, but much more general or more broad. If that makes sense. It's kind of like the hierarchy of that. But this one in particular is not bad. Where you get in trouble is if you try to use a singular tag on a singular post, or, you know, a tag that's unique to one post. And then if that's the case, you want to make sure that they're no index, because it could get you into trouble. And let me just show you where that setting is. If we go into Yoast, if you're using Yoast, and all SEO plugins will have something similar to this. So the settings may be slightly different where you find them, but they should be available. Go into SEOs, and here we go into titles and metas. We click on that. We go up to taxonomies, and from here you're going to see categories. I have categories set to no index follow and tags set to no index follow. And that's what you can do. Categories, it's okay to leave as index if you'd like, provided that you have more than one post in each category. Because if you only have one post in the category, what's it done? It's created a duplicate content, because it creates a category page, and then you have the original page. So you need to have more than one post in the category in order to have these set to index. So again, for most people, guys, for most people, just go ahead and set this stuff to no index, but follow, because it'll keep you out of trouble for stuff that you might miss. Okay, and it's really not that important for most stuff. Okay. And then lastly, if we go to others, you're going to see that this is author archives, and in this fact, you know, if you've only got one author on the site, you really should check that anyways, because there's not going to be multiple authors. And honestly, how many times I can't say that I've ever gone to the archives, and you know how sometimes you go to a blog and there's a archive menu in the right-hand side, and it lists every month and plus a year that there's been posts on that. And sometimes they're like, 16, 18, 20 inches long. You got to keep scrolling and scrolling, and it's just junk. What has anybody ever clicked on those archives? I never do, because it doesn't tell you what's in those archives, so they're just useless. So get rid of them. Date archives right here. Just set them to no disable the date-based archives. Just disable it altogether and click Save Changes. All right, and then lastly, if you're using the XML sitemaps from within Yoast, which I don't think you are, Brian, because I looked at your robots.txt and your sitemap was just sitemap.xml, and that's different than what Yoast provides. But you want to do the same thing over here. Like, again, this is an old site, and I should have had this right here, tags checked to exclude. Okay, all you really want to have in your sitemap is your posts and your pages. And then if you have a video sitemap with videos on your site, you want to keep video as well. But everything else you should pretty much go ahead and just disable. Okay? Because you don't want to get stuck with duplicate content. That's my point. So, all right, so that was index status, tags, archive pages, etc. I just showed you how to do that. The last thing we're going to talk about as far as this is robots.txt. That's a file that tells Google what it can crawl and what it shouldn't crawl on your site. Well, not just Google, but all bots, really. Not all bots obey, which what your request is with robots.txt file, but a lot of them do. Excuse me. So if we go take a look at your site, Brian, we'll say, let's close this window, and we're going to look at your robots.txt file. So it's robots.txt. And we're going to see that this is the file that's sitting in your root folder of your server, and it's saying user agent, and it's saying disallow anything that's looking at the WP-admin directory. It's showing your sitemap as being right here, which is good that you have this sitemap listed in your robots.txt. A lot of people don't do that, so it's good that you have that. What I want to show you is, however, you should always go to Google Webmaster Tools. And this is something that I started doing more recently. And it helps quite a bit, and that's to go to Webmaster Tools for your site. Okay, I'm going to use this Fredericksburg electrician site as an example, because again, this is one that had not been completely set up properly. I've just abandoned this site, so this was a good example. But if we go over to crawl, so once you're in Google Webmaster Tools, click on your site. When you get in your site dashboard, then you want to go to crawl over here, and then go down to fetch as Google. And on this page, you want to fetch and render. Just leave it as desktop. You can also check it to see what it looks like in mobile, smartphones, and everything else. This is basically you're telling Google to go look at your site and then tell you what scripts and everything else that can it read your site, and if there's problems with sections or elements of your page or that it can't read, it will display them. And this is where you can fix it using your robots.txt file. So go here, fetch as Google, and we're just going to check from the home page. So I'm just going to click on fetch and render. And you'll see that it's going to start reading it here. It's saying pending. It'll just take a minute or two for it to come back, and then it's going to give us a status reading. And then once it gives us a status reading, we can click on that, and it's going to give us the actual. And while I'm waiting for that, let me show you guys where you can edit your robots.txt file inside your WordPress dashboard without having to go into your server or cPanel or FTP. You can do it that way, and you can certainly do it that way, but there's also some easier ways. If you're using Yoast, they have under the edit files right here, you click on that, and you'll see that right here is create robots.txt file. If you click on that, it's going to turn the screen. Let's see, save changes to robot.txt. Let me save that first. Okay, generally, and if you guys try this, and when you first create robots.txt, if it redirects you to a screen with a bunch of just like lines of code, that's okay. All you need to do is go back up into the URL string and delete everything beyond WP admin, and then hit return, and it will bring you right back to this page with the robots.txt file added now. It's weird. I've noticed on just about, this is the first site that I didn't see it do that, to be honest with you. So it's okay. You didn't freak out. Just delete that part of the URL and hit return. Okay, and I'll bring you back here. And now you can edit the robots.txt file right within the dashboard of your WordPress site. And I'm going to show you what you want to add to that, but also plugins. If you're not using the Yoast plugin, then I'm going to show you another way to do it. So you go to plugins, add new, and then search for WP robots txt. That's going to be this plugin right here. And if you add that, install it, and activate it, then it will give you a robots.txt file editor, just like you saw in Yoast, but it'll be under settings, reading, and it'll be at the bottom of the page down here instead. Okay, so that way you can do it right with inside your dashboard. But anyways, let me go back to SEO, go to Edit Files, and we're going to jump back over to Webmaster Tools, and we're going to show you that it's saying partial. This is the one that I just ran a few minutes ago. If we open that up, we're going to see that it's giving me a few scripts on the page that it cannot read. And in fact, it looks like it's reading everything now. There's some things you can't do anything about, which is interesting. There's a maps code right here, maps.google.com, and it blocks itself from reading it. You can't fix that. You can see how it says reason is blocked. You can't fix that. You can't fix Twitter. Okay, you can't fix. This is from Twitter as well. This is another thing from Google. You can't fix that. And this is from, I'm not sure what that one's from, but I can't fix that. Only thing you can fix is anything that has to do with your domain. But what you do is if you have, and in this case, it looks like it's reading everything on my site except for this script, which is actually a script from WordFence, the plugin, which is a security plugin that I'm using, and this is a live traffic logging script. So, and I honestly don't care about that. I really don't care about this site because I haven't, done anything for it. But I'm telling you, with all of my sites, I always go in and double check. I fetch and render as Google. Then I find out which scripts it's not able to read on the page, and then I go in and I add them one by one. So, again, this is one that I'm going to disable in WordFence so that Google can say that it can read it. Basically, it'll eliminate the script altogether. But if this was any kind of other script, a lot of times you'll see like jQuery and Ajax scripts and things like that here that it says that it can't read. So all I do then is I copy them one by one into a notepad. I just right-click, copy, paste into a notepad, and then you come in here and you add them right here to get rid of the root URL. And just by looking at like this where it says user agent disallow, you come down here and you say allow. And you add the rest of the URL string past the, you start with the / before WP admin, and you stick it in. So in this case, I would stick this in. It's not going to work because this is actually from, in this case, it's from WordFence, which I'll show you where to disable that if you guys are using WordFence. But you would click allow and then click save changes robots.txt. And you do that with all the scripts that Google says it can't read right here, except, as long as it's part of the domain itself. If it's anything outside of your control, don't bother. It's not going to help. Okay? But then you add those, and then just go back and you just go back to fetch as Google and hit fetch and render again. Okay? And then you keep doing that until you make sure that it says it can read everything that you have control over. That's going to improve your quality score, which is going to help with your SEO a little bit. Okay? So very simple to do. Now the last thing, and let me show you where that thing is in WordPress or WordFence. If you're using WordFence, go to Options, and it says this option enables live traffic logging. If I uncheck that and click Save Changes, reload page, and I come back over here to Webmaster Tools and I click Fetch and Render again, it's going to take a few minutes, but when it's done, you'll see that that script is no longer there. Okay? And then while that's doing that, the last thing that you can do is, guys, I don't know why people don't do this more often, but when people are waiting for stuff to index now, there's excuse me, there's a debate about when you force Google to index something, whether that's can actually hurt you a little bit or not. But I think when it comes to like your money side, like for example, I use URL indexing services for all my Web 2 links and things like that, because Web 2 links, the home page of your Web 2 sites can index. They usually index without a problem. It might be a little long to get indexed, but they usually index without a problem. But the individual post URLs, sometimes they never index at all. So you got to help them along. Or if they do index without you forcing it, it takes a long, long time for them to index a lot of the times. And that's why a lot of backlink analysis tools won't even show them because they're not indexed. Okay, and that's why you've built 1,500 Web 2 links to a site and they're not showing up in the URL. They're the backlink analysis tools because they're not indexed, right? So now they will show up in Google Webmaster Tools. I'll show that to you in just a minute. I don't want to get too far ahead. We're running out of time anyways, but I think this is important. By the way, you see that script is gone. Okay. So just to let you know, you will see those links on Google Webmaster Tools. If you look at search traffic links to your site, you'll see right here the Web 2.0 links that you build. You won't see the individual URLs, but you'll see, okay, I've got however many links. Again, this site, I don't think I've ever built links to this site. It's been abandoned forever. But some of my more mature sites that I've worked on, you'll see that I'll have thousands of WordPress.com links and thousands of Tumblr links and all of the properties in my IFTTT networks. You'll see that we've got hundreds and even thousands of links from those properties back to the site. So Google does know they exist, but they're not indexing them. Okay, so you can use indexing services such as Backlinks Indexer or Linklicious.co, and there's 1 hour indexing, and there's just there's a number of indexing services to index those. But I would not suggest that you use an indexing service directly to your money site. So don't take a post URL that you just posted and submit it to an indexing service, because they build like crappy links back to the link that you want indexed. Okay, usually with unrelated, they're like just completely random anchor text and things like that, and you don't know what the quality of those sites is that are building links to that URL that you want indexed. So I've done it in the past where I've indexed all the links from my site using an indexing service, and then you go read it and look at it in Ahrefs or Majestic, and you see a bunch of crappy links with unrelated SEO, anchor text terms pointed back to your site, and that's what it's from, is the indexing services. So keep that in mind. You don't want to do that. The best way to index your pages, besides manually telling Google to index it, which I'm going to show you here in just a moment, is to actually syndicate your content or your URL across Web 2.0s and then index the Web 2.0s. Okay, because that's going to force Google to come crawl your link. All right, and that'll get it to index. But the other thing that you can do is under the Fetches Google, you can see where it says fetch and render, like we just did that, and then where it says submit to index, you click that, and you could submit individually just one URL at a time. So for example, if you submit publish a new post on your site, you want it to index very quickly, you just grab the slug, paste the slug in here, and you click fetch and render to make sure that everything reads on that page, and then once it's done, you click submit to index, and you can say crawl this URL only, and that would just submit that one URL. Or in this case, because we're on the home page, if you click crawl this URL and all its direct links, it's going to spider the home page and spider the site just like the Screaming Frog site did, and it's going to basically tell Google that you're requesting to index all those links. Okay, and I've actually done this, and it's weird. I've had varying results, but guys, I've taken a brand new domain and put like a YouTube video on the home page and submitted it to Google, and within 15 minutes it's in the index. So I do this a lot for almost all my sites. As soon as I get done putting content, like I'll put WordPress on them, I'll put some seed content on it, generally a YouTube video because it's Google code, right? And then I'll come here and I'll submit it to the index, and generally it's indexed within 24 hours. Sometimes it'll take a few days, but for the most part it indexes very, very quickly. Okay. All right, crawl fetches Google, we did that. Okay, so I think we're good. We're not going to have time to go much over this today, guys. Is there any questions? It's been kind of quiet today, Marco.
No, no question.
Okay, well, I hope this is valuable. All right, so that said, I just want to, once again, Brian, I want to say thank you for allowing us to kind of dissect your site. I hope you got a lot out of that, man. I think you've done a really good job at making the site look a hell of a lot better, and that's definitely very, very important. But the next thing you want to do is get it to perform better in the search engines, and take a lot of what I told you today and start applying it. And again, don't try to do it all at once, because that's overwhelming. Just set yourself a goal of doing a few pages per day, and then just do that consistently every day. And don't do a lot of other things to it. Just do what I said to de-optimize your URL slugs. Try to get rid of the over-optimization of the keywords and the terms, on the pages, and then let it go. Make sure that you monitor it and see what changes, what effect it had, in like the next 3 weeks, or once you're completed making the changes. Because one other thing I want to point out.
Let me stop you for a second. We just had a question pop up.
Okay.
From BJ, okay. And you posted the Screaming Frog URL.
Yes.
For the SEO spider. And he wants to know if this is the same URL for the replay, and we just need to let him know that this is something that you're actually showing in the webinar.
Yeah, the link that I posted here. Is that what he's talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, but no, I think what he's asking is this going to be the replay for the video? This link for here? No, here what you can do is, you know what I'll do? Yeah, the replay will be on this page, BJ, and then you can always just click on the YouTube icon and it'll open it up in YouTube instead of on this events page. But I can also take the YouTube URL right now and paste it in here, and in about 30 seconds or 60 seconds, that will be the YouTube URL will show up. Okay, so you'll be able to watch the replay. Just come back to this event page and you can click on it. Okay. I think that's what he was asking.
Okay.
The Yeah, right there it is. It just appeared on the events page. Okay. So, anyways, as far as keep this in mind, guys, that when we're with the new Panda update, it used to be that if you had 20% of your site was over optimized, then it could pull you down for a Panda penalty. Like it could pull the entire site down. But now it's if you have one page on your site that's over optimized, it can hurt the entire site. So that's why I said, Brian, what I would do is go through and de-optimize everything, and wait and do the entire site, okay? Even if it takes you a few weeks to do it, get it entirely done, and then don't touch anything, and watch it, track it for about 3 weeks, and then see where it starts to settle in after that 3-week period is up, before you start doing other things. Because like I said, if you de-optimize 10 out of 30 pages to over the next 2 weeks, you still got 20 pages that are over optimized. Well, it doesn't matter if you had 30 pages and you de-optimized 29 of them, but you still had one page that was way over optimized, it could affect all other 29 pages. So that's why I say go ahead and take care of everything first, and then kind of watch it. All right. So we're going to talk about this very quickly. We're going to probably run over a few minutes, but since there aren't a lot of questions, I'm going to try to wrap this up in about 10 minutes, guys. Again, there was no questions. If anybody has any questions, start running them in now, because I'm going to try to run through this, and then we're going to wrap it up. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving, and I appreciate everybody being here. And again, the replay will be available. By the way, I want to mention this now also, that when on the replay page, guys, if you have any questions after this event's over, or if you come back and watch us and a question pops up, please feel free to just submit a question. It'll notify me, and I can always come back and answer you at a later time. Also, remember, the Hump Day Hangouts are every Wednesday from 4 to 4:30 Eastern. So if you have a question specifically that you would like answered or covered live next week, just bring your questions and attend next week, and I'll take care of it then. Okay. All right, so boosting domain authority. I want to point this out very quickly. I'm going to stick this link as well in the let's see. Oh, I didn't get to go over a couple other on-page things, but you know what? I'll save that for next time, because I do want to cover this briefly. Brian, remind me to talk to you about internal links and your navigation menu. Okay, we'll talk about that next week during the Hump Day Hangout. But I want to cover that too, but I'm not going to get into that right now, because I'd like to at least get the idea or the concept presented to you guys about this and why this is important, so you can think about this. Maybe we'll cover this again next week as well. So DA boosting, why is that important? With boosting domain authority, it's very, very important. In fact, I can show you right here that Moz had their 2014 local search ranking factors, and this is I did a video blog post about this report, and the links, guys, I'm going to stick this right here in the events page so that you guys have this as well. And this will just take you to our blog, but within the description on that blog page or that blog post is the link directly to the Moz local search ranking factor report. Okay, and you'll see that if you scroll down, this is a great report. It's got a lot of good information and just a very quick overview of what were the factors that were in common or weighted the most that the top ranking pages had, and they do it by basically like prioritization. And so it's very interesting. But if you take a look at the other link here that I say link to screenshot with notes, click that open, and we'll zoom in on it. And what I did was I just basically cut out the sections of the article that were important to the point that I was going to make, okay, that I was trying to make. And that's that domain authority consistently is coming up in all of these metrics. Look how much. It is a huge, huge factor in ranking, and what ranks a site is domain authority. It's absolutely huge. It's one of the, by weight, probably the most important, because look how often it comes up in each one of these factors that that they were measuring. domain authority and page authority. And page authority is just a measure of domain authority for a specific page, right? Domain authority is the domain on a whole, for all pages, all posts, and all subdomains of the domain. It's a cumulative value. But a page authority is very similar to PageRank. It's still different, but it's similar in that it's a metric or a value assigned to a specific page only. Okay, but domain authority continues to come up and up and up in all of these here, and so that's why it's very, very important. And this is, remember, this is from the 2014 local search ranking factors. So if you're doing local SEO, domain authority is incredibly powerful if you know how to boost it on your site. And we have some real ninja ways to do it. Some stuff that you know is you know, one thing that we do that we talked about earlier when I showed you guys the new syndication properties is we have one of the core or foundations of our training is the IFTTT networks, which are all incredibly high domain authority sites that we use to syndicate our content to, right? With an attribution link pointing back to our site. BJ, I know we talked about this last week a little bit. If he's not on, he'll remember, because we chatted about this last week. But they're all incredibly high domain authority sites. They're all well-respected, high-authority sites, many of which are actually Google-verified sites. And I'm not saying that with, that's the honest-to-God's truth. They're called social data hub partner sites. Means they're partnered with Google, and they're Google-approved sites. Many of them, such as Digo, Blogger, TypePad is one of them that we can use in the networks. So the point is that we use those, and we syndicate our content, and we point links back to our main site through that content, and we get to siphon some of that domain authority, okay, back to our sites, which will help. There's a couple things that we can do to improve domain authority beyond that. Number one is to interlink the branded properties, which is what I showed you guys earlier, how we try to link all the profiles together every opportunity that we get, okay? One of the best places to do that is, for example, we'll look at my Google Plus page here. This is my profile. You can do this for your profile and your page, which, the business page. But if we scroll down here, we're going to see over here on the link section, we can see that, look, other profiles, and then we have contributor too, right? So and then there's also links down here, but all of these gives us opportunities here to link all of our profiles up together, right? Another very, very important place to do this. We want to do that on every property where available. So, for example, if we, and hopefully this is a, I don't practice what I preach sometimes, because I don't use my own blogs for SEO. I use Persona's blogs for SEO. As a matter of fact, let's see if we can find Dana Ayers real quick. We'll go over to her blogger profile because that's done correctly. Actually, you know what? We're running out of time, so it doesn't matter. The point is that you can, like in a blogger blog, for example, you can list in the sidebar all of the links to all your other profiles. Do the same thing for WordPress. Do the same thing for Tumblr. Tumblr, you got to do the HTML coding yourself in the header, but you can do it. It's not hard to do. But you can link all of your other properties together in the Tumblr as well. Same thing with Gravatar. Gravatar is part of WordPress.com, and the same thing. Look at this, guys. You get to add your websites down here, and you get to add verified services over here. And this links everything together. All these links back together, right? So you're boosting authority because you're interlinking everything very tightly. Now another one is about.me. About.me, you can't syndicate content to this, but you can get all of your links in one place. And look at the domain authority. Let me open this up. The domain authority is a 91. Gravatar is a 97, 94. 94. Okay? And you can see, like, I've probably never built a link to this, and the page authority is 45, just because it's on a high domain authority site. So the page authority is what's funneling through all of these, right? So very, very important to do that, to interlink all your properties and to get on as many high domain authority properties as you possibly can. And on the next slide, I'm going to show you a list. And you guys might want to screenshot the list. And that's just a partial list, guys. That's just something that I threw together today off the top of my head with a little bit of research, I'm not going to lie, to try to stack them up properly as far as the domain authority values. They descend. Okay, but you can find a huge list online. Just do some Google searches, and you can find lists of domain authority properties sorted by domain authority, that sort of thing. Okay. Interlinking the branded properties. Okay, we covered that. Subdomains. This is something we're going to touch on very, very briefly, and we'll go into this more in depth another time because we don't have the time to cover this today. However, on your money site, whatever site it is you're trying to rank, okay, if you self-hosted WordPress site, you put a subdomain on that site, slap WordPress on it, put up a piece of content. You don't have to link it back to the root. In other words, you don't have to put a link from the subdomain site back up to your root site, your main site, right? But you just put a subdomain on there. In fact, I've done it, you know, you could put like a dab.yoursite.com, okay, DAB for domain authority boosting, something like that. And then you can build links to that domain, that subdomain, because Google's treating that subdomain as a separate site, right? So you can do some real spammy stuff if you'd like, some black hat stuff if you'd like, doesn't matter. As long as you don't have a physical link from the content on that site up to your root domain, it's going to be treated as a separate domain. And you can boost domain authority by building links to that subdomain. And the domain authority, because it's a subdomain, it's a part, remember, domain authority is the cumulative effect of all of the domain's parts, which means all of its posts, all of its pages, and all of its subdomains. So if you're building links to a subdomain on your root domain site, if you don't have a physical link, it's not subject to, even if you penalize your subdomain site, it's not going to affect your root domain because it's a separate site. In Google's eyes, it's a separate site. However, you will benefit from the domain authority. Even if it gets penalized, it doesn't matter because it's still domain authority. Juice is juice. Whether it's good juice or bad juice, juice is juice, if that makes sense, guys. So you can build a subdomain with completely unrelated topics, and you don't have to build that. You don't got to deck that site out. You can put one page of content on the first page. First thing you want to do is get that subdomain indexed. Honestly, you could even set it to no index. Typically what I do is I set the subdomain up, put content on it, wait for that subdomain site to get indexed. Then I blast the hell out of it with inbound links, and I'd set it to no index because at that point it doesn't matter. It's still receiving the juice. But I first want it to get recognized and you know, verified by Google, saying, you know, I do exist first. Then I start blasting it and boosting domain authority. And we've been able to at times go from take a brand new domain with the money site on the root side of the domain and you know, a domain authority boosting subdomain set up and boost it to, I've gotten to the high 30s in a matter of 30 days, 45 days. You know, Moz updates its domain authority metrics about every 30 days. Okay, so I've gotten up to the high 30s. I know one of our members, that's one of my partners, Adam Moody, he's been able to get it above 40 in a matter of 30 or 60 days. And that's incredibly huge, considering, especially with local stuff, guys, you get your domain authority into the high 30s, around 40 and above. That's, you know, again, what are we looking at here? We're looking at the content right here that shows that is one of the major ranking factors for local, right? So if you can boost your domain authority of your domain without doing spammy stuff to your main money site, why not, right? Why not take advantage of that and do that? So GSA is one way to do it. If you know how to use GSA, you can do it very quickly using spammy links. Again, do not link from your subdomain to your root domain. It's going to treat it as a standalone site. And you don't have to worry. What I would suggest is in this case is that you don't use any sort of anchor text links at all, like no keyword anchors. Just use 100% generic and URL anchors. 100% generic. So click here, read more, you know, learn more, you know, that kind of stuff. You guys know what generic anchors are. Do all generic and all URL anchors. That's all you need because all you're doing is pushing juice. You don't care. You're not trying to rank it, right? You're just pushing juice. All right, another thing that you could do is you could set up an auto blog. An auto blog, you could even, in this case, if you want to push some relevancy back, you could set up an auto blog with related, with related keywords. So you're going out and building stuff that's somewhat related to your money site, and set up IFTTT networks so that the auto blogs populate the content on their own and automatically push them out across additional networks because the IFTTT networks are going to build domain authority on autopilot. And let the auto blog do the work. Remember, this is just something you're doing. It's just it's a vehicle that you're using to boost domain authority so that your root domain, your main money site, benefits from it. You don't really care about the content on here. Okay, don't spend a lot of time on it. Just get it set up and take advantage of this. Okay, another one is auto blogs with auto social signals. What comes to mind is if anybody knows Network Empire, they have the WP Social Explosion. It's a bit pricey, but it works, and it's completely on autopilot. With IFTTT networks, it's on autopilot, but you got to build the networks, right? Or get an outsourcer to build the networks, which is what I suggest. I highly recommend that, so that you're not actually doing it yourself. And that doesn't come with a monthly cost. That's just literally you build the networks and then you plug it all together and it's done. Okay, but with If you want to do completely hands-off where you don't have to build any networks at all, you could do an auto blog with an auto social signal plugin such as like WP Social Explosion, which if you go to WPSocialExplosion.com, that's Network Empire's site where they sell that plugin. But you'll see the subscription rates are rather high. It's a great plugin though, and again, if you want total hands-off and you don't mind a monthly expense, it's a very viable solution. Okay. Also, expired domains, 301s. We talked about that in a blog post on our blog. You can check that out. But we can also use the same strategy that we're talking about here to boost domain authority by buying expired domains. Guys, go to anybody that's ever bought an expired domain or gone shopping for expired domains, go to closeout domains, GoDaddy closeouts, and you'll find a ton of domains in there. A lot of them are Chinese, like spam domains, that you can find for $5, $8, $11. That have, you know, hundreds of thousands of backlinks built to them, and if you check the domain authority on them, there'll be domain authorities 40 plus, 50 plus, even 60 plus for you know, under the price of a pizza, guys. You can buy those expired domains. Once they're added to your account, you do a 301 registrar redirect to a subdomain on your money site. So essentially, you're just taking all those. Well, what I would suggest doing in that case is setting up, adding that domain to a server. Though I wouldn't do just a registrar redirect, and here's why. A lot of those domains that you buy that are expired, especially Chinese domains, they had a ton of subdomains, and that's why their domain authority is so high. Some of them have hundreds of subdomains, and if you do just a registrar redirect, you'll only get the juice from the root domain, not from all the subdomains. So there is a way that you can set up, excuse me, the expired domain in a hosting account that you have. Any old hosting account will do. And then you set up, so you point your domain to your host, and then you put an htaccess file for that domain in the folder of that domain, and you use a specific code which we can cover at a later date that will redirect all subdomains to the root, and then the root redirects to the subdomain of your money site, and you can actually push all of that juice to subdomain. Guys, I've tested this with one of my tree service sites that actually got penalized, not because of this. It was already penalized, so I figured it would be a good domain to test it on. I put a subdomain on it. It was a tree service site, and I put a gaming, an online casino gaming. I bought an expired domain that was spammed to death. It had a domain authority of, I think, like 57. Bought it for $11, and I redirected it to a subdomain site on the tree service site, and I went from a domain authority of 18 to a domain authority of 47 in 30 days, and did nothing else. Boosted it to 47 by just doing that. It cost me $11 and about an hour of time. So I just want to give you guys an idea what you can do. Don't point it directly to your money site, for God's sakes. Don't do that. Point it to a subdomain on your money site. If you wanted to try pointing it directly to your money site, which I wouldn't suggest, you'd want to use a double 301 redirect, which you're going to lose some of the juice that way anyways. And again, that's a little bit more advanced, so we're not going to talk about that. But this is just something I want to talk about with you guys because it's something that you can do to get what we show right here. You can cover a lot of that in one of these ways. It's going to actually help you to rank better because you've got a higher domain authority than your competitors. Okay. So is there any questions on that? I promised you guys this screenshot. If you guys are still on, take a screenshot of this. If not, you know, I'll go ahead and make a JPEG image out of this, and I'll post this in with the replay, so that you guys have access to this. And again, you can find your own list. But right here, these are all properties. Like, again, if you look at all these, look at the domain authority, which is in parentheses. These are all sites that you can at least add one link to, but for most of them on here, you can add multiple profile links. So again, what I suggest is that you go out and you start creating accounts on a lot of these sites, or all of these sites, or all of these sites plus more. And you get a link back to your money site, and don't just link to your home page all the time. You can link to inner pages on your site. You can link to silo pages, category pages, that sort of thing, and also interlink to your other profiles, as many as you can. Okay, so you start building this network or web of these really high domain authority sites, all of them pointing back to your site, money site, in some form or another, whether it's your home page, an inner page, a post, a category page, doesn't matter, any one of those, and then build links to all of these. You know. Use these as your SEO firewall, very much like the IFTTT network. I mean, but you can do this with secondary accounts, is my point. You've got your branded IFTTT network, right? That's branded. That's an extension of your brand. You're not trying to hide anything. But then you go out and you build secondary accounts with personas on these, and you start interlinking in more of a random fashion. Start linking between some of these sites to other sites, and then those other sites link to your site, and that sort of thing. You can start getting random in how you do it, and just create this great big web of high domain authority sites, and you're going to see a huge difference, guys. So, all right, well, we are over almost 15 minutes, so I'm going to wrap it up. Marco, is there any questions?
Not that I see.
I'm surprised. People were quiet today. I don't know how many people attended. We had 8 people that were supposed to be on, so... anyways, I hope that was valuable, guys. It took a lot of time to put this presentation together for you. If you have any questions about this, like I said, please feel free to ask on the events page itself. We will, I'll get notified of any questions. And again, next week we're going to have the same time, 4 to 4:30. It'll be short, but if you guys have any questions about what was taught today or anything that comes up between now and then, please feel free to join us again next week. We'll be happy to have you. And thanks for everybody showing up today on Thanksgiving Eve. Thank you, Marco, for helping out.
No problem.
And
night, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy holidays. Be safe. If you get stuck in the snow, like it's in Virginia, and we got like 2.5, 3 inches of snow today. It was crazy. So that was a little early, but everybody enjoy your day tomorrow, and we'll see you next week.